Hey folks, my name is Nader, and I'm the COO here at AutoLeap. Our mission as a company is obviously to help shops like yours get ahead, and to that end, we make the most modern and easy to use shop management system out there. If you're interested in learning more, please feel free to fill out that get a demo form on our website, and a member of my team would be more than happy to talk to you. Now, as you folks know, here at AutoLeap, we run a webinar twice a month where we get the best and brightest minds in the aftermarket to talk to us about best practices in the aftermarket. Today's guest here is Al Wheeler of ShopPros, someone I have a lot of respect for, and somebody who's helping to shape what our dashboards look like here at AutoLeap. Very excited to hear what Al has to say about trust and how you earn it. It's certainly a big part of how we design the system, thinking through how to actually increase customer trust. Perfect. Al, over to you.
Thank you, Nader. And I know that, good afternoon, first of all, to most of you. I guess some of you are still in the morning, depending on where you're located. And I know for you guys in Canada, you're on the verge of a long weekend. So coming up with May 24. So it's great to have the opportunity to share some insights with you today. I think some of it will be, hopefully all of it will be valuable for you. My objective is really to bring some heightened awareness to the importance of understanding consumer behavior and the impact that it can have on your business. Each of you are already consumers of goods and services, as well as providers of some of those services as well. But I know sometimes we don't relate our own experiences to our own business, or maybe we think we're a little bit different or they don't apply to us. But before we dive in, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself. As Nader said, I've spent my entire career serving automotive service providers and repair shops across North America, primarily in a parts world, the parts side of the business. I spent 30 plus years with CarQuest Auto Parts, and then we were purchased by Advance Auto Parts and got the opportunity to come across early on and run their commercial business, which was a fun endeavor. But I've also had the opportunity to be on the board and as an officer of ASE, and then also as the chairman of the board and CEO of the Automotive Maintenance and Repair Association. And now, as Nader said, I am the CEO of ShopPros, which is a business planning and performance improvement application for repair shops. So, and all that means is I've been around for a while and I've seen a lot, and that's where all this gray hair comes from that you see. So, but through those years, I've really developed a great deal of respect for the job that you guys do in running your shops. You provide a really essential service, crucial services to motorists, and I know it's not easy. And I'm not sure how often you stop and think about the services that you do provide to motorists today that keeps people at work, keeps people at play every day. When I think about the term heroes, which gets bannered around a little bit more often in today's environment, given the circumstances we've all experienced over the past year or so, I know typically it was reserved for people like military and police and fire, but it's had an expanded vocabulary recently to extend out to doctors and nurses. But I also think it extends to you and your people in the shop. Without you, continuing to keep people's vehicles on the road, allowing them to get to their job, get those essential service providers out there, we'd be in a world of hurt. So I really appreciate what you do and the tasks that you are assigned with every day and things that you do. So with that, let me jump in. If I can get my slide to go forward here. There we go. Trust, really by definition, if you look at it, it means a firm belief in reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. Interestingly, as I looked at this, the caption in the dictionary that I looked at used it as an example relationships have to be built on trust. Trust is not only the heart of my message, but really, I think it's critical for you to understand the dynamics of consumer behavior, how they're changing, and the importance of trust in the relationship between the motorist and the service provider. In fact, I think how you embrace this concept of trust could be one of the keys to your long-term success in the business. And establishing trust is particularly important in our industry, and you might ask why, but the vehicle your customers are driving is likely the second most valuable asset they own next to their homes. And unless that vehicle is 20 years old, it's also probably the most advanced piece of technology that they own. So increasingly, there are electronic and computerized systems and components that are working in concert in today's vehicles, and most customers simply either don't or don't want to understand how those systems work. So when it comes to maintenance and service, they have typically approach it with a degree of apprehension because there is a little bit of mystery associated with it. Our job is to take the fear out of that experience and wire trust in. Again, hopefully if you take anything away from my message today, it's the underlying story of trust and the critical nature that it plays in operating a successful business, and especially a successful shop, both now and even more importantly into the future. So the question I have for you to consider today really is, are you actively developing a culture of motorist trust in your business? If not, the good news is it's not too late to start. Unfortunately, the bar for exceptional customer service in our industry is set fairly low. So differentiating your business based on trust from your competitors can certainly be a game changer for you. And when I say competitors, I even include the OE dealers in that conversation. So I believe there's a direct relationship between business growth and profitability when trust is established with your customers, and the trust, simply put, must be the foundation really of sustaining and really growing our businesses as we go forward. So let me take a step back just a second and just kind of review the landscape of the industry today. Some of you obviously are very familiar with this. We just established, we have a very complex computerized vehicle that most consumers want, and all the amenities associated with it, but rarely understand how those automotive systems within it work. The data alone that is generated by today's connected car is enough to make most consumers' heads spin. Certainly, the term mechanic needs to fade away in our industry because it truly takes a skilled technician today to work on these complex vehicles. So the question becomes, how do we find and attract technicians into our industry? How do we train them? How do we properly recognize and compensate them, as well as and retaining them, ultimately retaining them? And just as a side note, I'd also say that your service advisors are just as important as those technicians, those people that are on your front counters, that the people that are meeting your customers every day, both on the phone and in person in your shop. And I consider them the trust gatekeepers, if you will, because many times they're the face of your organization. So, and then going forward, I think it's incumbent upon us to really look at how we build effective ecosystems, things that AutoLeap and ShopPros, for that matter, are very focused on to support businesses, because it's going to take different things and different ways that to care for this business as we go forward. And hopefully you'll see that at the end of the presentation. It's about embracing the technology and not fearing it, embracing the evolution of the digital-based consumer, which we'll talk a lot about today, and meeting them where they're at and not relying on those older marketing tactics that we employed in the past. And finally, accepting that vehicle ownership is going to look much differently as we go down this road. And not only now, but in the coming years, even more dramatically changing. Inevitably, we're looking at different ways that we're going to be engaging customers, different expectations from those customers, and different repair options, whether it relates to a fleet, on-site repair where you pick up the vehicle at the consumer's place of work and then deliver it back to them at the end of the day for convenience, or pick up and delivery at their home, which many of you I know implemented during the pandemic and may still be doing. So all those topics for another day, but certainly relevant to how we operate our businesses both now and in the future. So back to the trust message. Rachel Botsman is a leading expert on topic of trust. This is her diagram. And she says we're at the start of the third and biggest trust revolutions in the history of mankind, which is a pretty bold claim when you stop and think about it. But on the there's plenty of evidence to back up her claim. Trust has migrated from local trust to institutional trust and now to distributed trust, as you see here. So I want to take a little bit of a journey back to discuss each one of them. Some of us lived in the days of local trust. Some of us are younger, not believe or remember it as much, but local trust was basically existed between two people and really was only built up through repeated interactions, face-to-face interactions over a period of time where a bond was established. And that is why for centuries, real trust really existed in limited circles. And those were your family and your friends very close to you. Trust then moved into the next phase, which we describe as institutional trust. Institutional trust was really established in business, many times by marketing and PR agencies around branding products in a way that created a sense of quality and value to the consumer. Institutional trust, incidentally, also existed in entities that were held in high esteem, like governments, banks, churches, courts, and things like that. And the fact is, institutional trust, as I just described it, has really hit a wall and is unfortunately collapsing. You just look at the results of a recent Gallup poll, at least in the U.S., in the trust in media, where 40% of those polls say they trusted what the media reported to them on a daily basis. And of that 40%, 9% said they had a great deal of trust. 31 of the 40% that was described to that said they just had a fair amount. And then when you look at out of the 60% who said they didn't trust media, 33% said they had none at all, and 27% said not very much. So that's really an indication that things are changing and shifting, and really brings into us to where we're at today, which is distributed trust, which introduces the concept really that trust and influence now lie more with people and their opinions those are typically transmitted via technology or social platforms than they do with brands or marketing or messages or any institution. So distributed trust really kind of points to the why we are all now consumers of the various scoring and rating services that are out there. The impact of this trust shift, both good and bad, should not really be underestimated when you think about how this is going and where it can go as we look to the future. It's really helping to shape and transform in real time how we feel about all sorts of businesses. It's also creating reputation trails where one mistake can follow us potentially for the foreseeable future, if not for an entire lifetime. So, and while some may view this kind of trust as bad, there are some good and positive sides of it. Ratings and reviews serve to make us more accountable to our customers, certainly, and as a result, force us to be better at what we do, better providers of service. And certainly, ultimately, it entails that we be nicer both to our existing and potential customers as they frequent our shops. So at the very least, it provides customers with an outlet with facts, which may or may not be true, that they're making decisions based on where they do business. And again, whether it's perceived or real, it becomes your reality and how you deal with that. So is distributed trust dangerous? It certainly can be. Uber is a classic example of that. When their initial thought process when they were looking at launching their platform was that if something negative happens between the driver and the passenger, it's not really their responsibility, but they quickly realized that that individual interaction really reflected on their entire platform, and then thus implemented a driver rating system that they have in place now. So that's where we're starting to see a sea change really for most businesses in the age of distributed trust. Companies have to be proactive. They have to be proactive. You have to be proactive, often through social platforms, to protect your reputation and to reduce the risk of bad things happening. So the real question that I would have for you is, when a customer does have a bad experience in your shop, how do you respond? Do you just ignore it? Do you blame the customer and essentially fire them? So what is your service recovery strategy when things go wrong from the customer's perspective? So that'll lead us to our first poll of that Nader will put up of the presentation. So.
Yep. So it's a yes no sort of question, folks. Do you have a process in place to help you address customer concerns, and do your people, feel empowered to make decisions to address these concerns if you aren't there?
And this is all about a part of building that trust.
Mm-hmm. Give you folks 30 more seconds. When the way we worded the question here, Al, really brings to mind, one of those old school boxes where you slip in your recommendations.
It really does. And left to chance, it can be disastrous for your business, because I think people recognize that everybody's not perfect. It's how you recover from those opportunities that really allows you to build trust. So if you're really in tune to that, and a big part of that is honestly listening, but reacting in a positive way, being empathetic, is all a part of that whole process. So for sure.
Yeah, I think it's actually an interesting point to bring up. I mean, if you see 100 5-star Google reviews, you probably ask yourself, who'd he pay? But if you see 97 5 stars and three 2 stars, 3 stars, it then becomes about how you actually respond and react to that 2-star. That really brings you to the front in terms of being the first among your peers. So it's interesting.
No, and I would say, Nader, to that point, as a consumer, when I look at reviews, which I do regularly, if there is a negative review and the owner or manager of that business has responded, again, empathetically, to say, I'm sorry you had that experience, give us a chance to make it right, it completely changes the way I look at that, versus if it just sits there and there's really nothing, and then you start thinking, well, is there really a systemic problem with the business itself? So.
Agree. Perfect. I'm going to end the poll here. Was neck and neck there for a little bit, but looks like 65% of people have a process, and 40% of people don't. A little less than 40%. Let me just share the results here. All of you folks can see them. Perfect. All right, Al.
Awesome. See if I can get this thing to go. Why my slide is not going down anymore. There we go. So really, when you think about it, trust is really the glue that holds the world together. But as we just saw, and I think you'll see here, those feelings of trust are starting to be transmitted virtually, online through the technology solutions that are out there and social platforms. And I would suggest they're not just subtle changes, they're really profound changes in how trust is created through the use of technology. There's some examples you see on the screen here, and I don't know how you grew up, but as a child, my mother always cautioned me, don't get into a car with a stranger. But I probably, if we had a poll, ask if how many of you have ever ridden with Uber or Lyft, it would probably be almost unanimous. And by the same token, how many of you may have stayed or hosted an Airbnb? I'm sure quite a few of you would be answering yes as well. And even things that it's hard for me to conceptualize, I guess, in a way, but even dating and meeting people has really become a thriving technology platform in business as well, with sites like Tinder. And the fact is that these platforms really are using technology and creating new mechanisms for people to trust individuals that they don't even know. And who would ever have thought that we would be more concerned about the safety of our money or the places we worship versus the person we get in the car with? But technology is creating that. And we can thank technology for that as well. So these new really digital trust tools and platforms are empowering individuals to make decisions and create trusted online profiles made from, again, verified information, declarative content, and real life experiences, which resonate more with people potentially than marketing messages and other things that we've typically relied upon. So taken together, all these things form really allows peers to really understand more about individuals that they've never met before, and really start changing the way they look at each other, the way they work together, the way they potentially look at collaborating even with each other across platforms that they don't even know. So. And again, when all this information then is then aggregated by these platforms and put together, it becomes kind of your trust profile, if you will, as a person, as a consumer. And you look at LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a great example of this. So if you look at Nader, if I had not met Nader and didn't know anything about him, I could go on his LinkedIn profile and understand where he's worked, what his work experiences are, all those things, where his interests are. I can read all the positive ratings and endorsements that he's received from various individuals, some of which I may know or not know. But I suddenly start considering Nader more than just to be less of a complete stranger and more of a peer, really, and potentially even a future friend, all through technology and never having met him or seen him, only through that profile. So then one last example, only because it's really intriguing to me and slightly lesser known than Uber and Lyft and things like that, and that's BlaBlaCar. I promise you I didn't make that up. That is the name of the platform. It's a relatively new platform that's based in France, but moving quickly into North America. It's really designed to match passengers who want to take long distance journeys together. So I guess you could say it's Uber on steroids. And the average trip in their profile is 260 kilometers. For those of the U.S., about 165 miles. And the site matches social profiles of individuals along with reviews as well, to help people make decisions on who they want to travel with on these longer term journeys. So you can see in the social profile whether they're a smoker, are they going to bring a dog along the trip, what their musical preferences are. But what they found, interestingly, was the most intriguing thing for most people want to know is how much are they going to talk on the trip. So you can select from blah, which is talk a little, blah blah, which is a fair amount of conversation, and blah blah blah, which my wife would probably fall in to, which means you're going to talk for the entire trip. And those are the decisions that they're making through. And while it may sound far-fetched to some of us, you'll be interested to know that BlaBlaCar has over 87 million members in their platform in 22 countries. They transport over 8 million customers or members per month, which incidentally is twice as much as JetBlue does, a US-based airline. and about half as much as American and Delta, which typically transmitted about 16 million passengers a month, at least before the pandemic. So it's a great example, I think, of technology platform that's enabling millions of people to take that, what Rachel Bosman calls that trust leap. And that's something we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. It is really a trust leap when it's one thing to go across town in Uber, but when you're going to go on a trip that's going to take 2 or 3 hours, it's a little bit different story. So, but technology's, I don't think it's not only changing the way people trust ideas and things in companies, it's accelerating it really. When you look at platforms like Amazon Echo, Look, which incidentally has now been reintroduced as Style by Alexa. Who would have thought where you could go on and get people, total strangers' opinion on outfits that you might be going out to wear, going to work with. I'm not sure anybody on this webinar has probably ever used it. I haven't, but there's people across the world that are using it every day. At one time, the local bank was the only place that you went to try to get a loan, and increasingly people are not exposing themselves and their financial positions to the local banker, which they may know or the kids play sports with, and are turning to web-based services like Upstart to get money from totally innocuous people that may or may not know. So why are they doing that? I think there's a lot of different reasons, but if we look at deeper a little bit about this trust leap concept that I brought up, it's really about taking and assuming a risk assessment, a risk of doing something different than the way we've always done it. It could be meeting someone you've never met before. It could be changing your doctor, changing the place you get your hair cut, or it could even be where you go to get your car repaired or serviced at a place you've never been. In order for you to go from a place of uncertainty to a place of certainty, it takes something to bridge that over. It takes you taking a chance on something or somebody to get you over that gap. And that something is trust. That's the remarkable force that allows someone to make that decision. So when you think about that in regard to your business today, if someone's looking to get their car fixed and they're selecting you for the first time, what are the things that you're doing? And are you implementing that remarkable force of trust? And it's fundamental to our everyday existence. You know, we trust our cars to get us to work, our children to school. We trust that family and friends will always have our back. We trust that the pilot that flies us to our destination is trained and is capable of delivering us there safely. So it's really about our everyday life, and these are decisions people are making every day. So trust can either empower and enable us, or it can debilitate us and hold us back. There's probably some people that are still a little bit reticent to put their credit card information into a website. And there's other of us on the opposite side, which probably describes me, that puts it in without even thinking. And the reason that we can do that is because we have a certain degree of trust in that platform or that institution, that they're going to take reasonable care with our data and not expose us to bad things to happen with that. So trust leaps are happening, and recognize that trust leaps are happening all around you. And as a business owner, we have to be engaged in and looking for opportunities to use that trust bridge, to establish those trust bridges that helps those existing and prospective new customers feel good about doing business with us, because it's happening every day. So we have to look in the mirror. We have to look internally and say, do we have the things in place within our business that we're creating that trust bridge that allows that consumer to make the trust leap, to go from a place of unknown over to knowing that and trusting us. So is your existing technology really allowing you to build that trust bridge? Do you have internal processes in place? Do you have, within your customer interaction and follow-up? There's a lot of components that are incorporated into building that trust bridge for your business. So I want to introduce our second poll question that Nader will now put up, and really, again, have you look in an honest fashion in your mirror to see if you really have those in place in your business.
Perfect. So folks, the question is, do you feel your existing technology, your website, all that, do you feel that's adequate to create a trust bridge with existing or potential new customers? It's looking overwhelming yes so far.
Oops.
Going to end the polling there. Looks like an overwhelming yes there, Al.
Great. That's good that you're doing that, and it's certainly a big part of how we're going to engage customers going forward. Let's see, I don't understand after my poll. There we go. So you've all heard the phrase moments of truth, and what I want to challenge you with again going forward is to come to get grips with this concept of moment of trust. And that is really what we exist in today with a new way the digital customer is. How do we become acutely aware of the opportunities for us to build trust into our business at every level, especially in the age of distributed trust, certainly. And to help demonstrate this, we've taken and looked at the experience, the customer experience through your shop, the journey, if you will, through their shop, and looking at it holistically. Whether you agree with the 6 different phases that we did or not doesn't really matter. I think we all have to start looking at where are the opportunities within our business to introduce this trust bridge that's going to be necessary with our customers. It begins with what I call the 0 moment of trust, and that is when a customer recognizes their vehicle needs maintenance or service, and then have begun the process of researching where they might take it. I think we all would recognize that increasingly that's done over the internet, whether it's done by direct search or done through social discovery or looking at different social platforms and looking at reviews at any number of sites that provide those services. I would venture to guess that if I asked you if you searched for something this week and you looked at reviews of either a product or a service, I suspect that your answer is yes. It's a typical part of our everyday consumer life of doing that, and certainly your business is no different than that. So it really forces us to look at our digital presence as an operation, as a business, and then what our messaging is through that digital presence, both to those existing and new potential customers. Does it incorporate a message of trust? Are you telling, or even better, letting your existing customers tell your story and letting people know that you're different and trustworthy? But that's just the beginning. Really, it carries through every step that you see here on this screen of the journey of the motors through your shop. Things like, are your service advisors capable of telling your story, telling it succinctly to everybody that walks through your doors, whether they're, again, existing or potential new customers? Is it a message of trust? Is it really showing that they can depend on you to do the right thing? Do you think your existing customer values the way your service advisors recognize them and welcome them? We all like to be welcomed and recognized. And are we keeping track of their maintenance and repair records? So the bottom line is really, are you developing a level of trust that you're able to not only establish with your customers, but really tie that to the direct communication that you're having with them through the repair experience with them. So Again, establishing customer trust really directly impacts the amount and quality, is really directly impacted by the amount and quality of the communication that you have with them. So let me say that again. Establishing trust with your customers is directly impacted by the amount and quality of the communication you have with them. Things like communicating the results of the vehicle inspection. Do you take the time to tell the customer all the things that are working appropriately, that don't need immediate attention, as well as the things that do? Do you bridge to future appointments for things that you're wanting to keep an eye on? Is there an opportunity to institute a trust bridge in that process? Do you think the experience with your customer would be even more enhanced if you were introducing the information in a socially acceptable way, whether it's text message, whether it's email, whether it's including pictures, whether it's an educational process helping them to understand the automotive system that you're working on a little bit better, which allows them to establish the why and not just the what. This is especially true if the customer is no longer present in the shop. So if they're at work or if they're at home and not present, how are you effectively communicating with them? And really, are you sensitive to the way those customers prefer to be communicated with? And everyone is different. Everyone's a little bit different. So are you taking the time to understand what are the customer's preferences in the way of communication? And ultimately, do you have a documented process within your system for making sure that happens in the way that they want it to happen? Also, at the end of this process, when you think about returning the vehicle to the motorist or in follow-up, do you have a process of delivering the vehicle to where the customer really feels good about the services that you provided and allows them to feel good about that experience, and really gives them peace of mind knowing that you've done the job right and they can drive that vehicle with confidence? And then are you following up with them as well to just check on the quality of that experience, and then at the same time allow yourself to potentially schedule the next service appointment as well? And again, as we started out talking about, no one's perfect. If something does go wrong, do you have a service recovery process in place when you need to make something right, or you do get a bad review? So again, what I'm saying essentially is, understanding this journey the motorist is making. Have you sat down with you and your team sat down and said, where are opportunities for us to build in these trust bridges, to introduce trust into the relationship to where that customer again becomes a loyal customer to you? Because you really have to operationalize trust in your business, and there's a lot of technology tools out there to help you do that. It's not exclusively limited to technology. It's a lot of the personal interactions, but technology can certainly help you do that. Products like AutoLeap and ShopPros can help you do that for sure. So again, bottom line is we must effectively manage those moments of trust in your business with the consumer. Don't get me wrong, I know it's not easy. I know many of you, if not all of you, are spending 50 to 60 hours, if not more, in the shop, in your business. But what I would propose to you, that it's worth the time for you to step away to work on your business and not just in it. So that's kind of the challenge that I have for you, is evaluating and looking at how you're working, the time that you're allocating to work on your business versus just living the loop of your life and reacting to things that happen to you as they get thrown at you within the daily confines of our business. We know that happens because, as we all know, the way we spend our days is the way we spend our lives. So it's a matter of choice whether you want to spend that life of fulfillment and purpose versus chaos, which we can certainly get enveloped by within the businesses that we operate. You are the CEO of your business, and as such, you need to allocate and dedicate time to work on that business, not only by yourself but with your team, and establishing those business plans. Do you have a business plan that's guiding your path? The rewards of doing so, I think, will come back to you in a manifest way. It certainly has the opportunity to improve your quality of life. And at the end of the day, hopefully your business will be easier to run. Certainly technology can allow you to do that. Business planning, all those things go into that. And certainly I know Nodder and myself, for that matter, if you're interested in those, we can put you on the right track of spending time and how you work on your business. Because it really is about today, I think, is creating this environment of continuous improvement. How can we do better? What are the things that we can do better? And instilling that in your team is critical as you go down this road. So again, a couple more. I'm no social media expert for sure. There are plenty of them out there that you can reach out to. But what I do know is it can be a pretty daunting task to try to tackle social media and managing the social aspects of your business by yourself. You need partners, I think, to support your brand, certainly. And technology, as I said, can take you a good way down that road, but it's also you have to do your part in the equation as well. So, and essentially, I will say, to summarize that, it's about really taking ownership and claiming ownership of your reputation. You own that, and how your business view you virtually. Only you can answer the question of whether your interactions with your customers, built on trust, obviously, in a face-to-face environment, are transmitted or translated online as well. And that's critical for us to do, because your reputation essentially is a culmination of all the individual interactions that your customers have with your people. So every employee in your building really needs to be in tune with that, and they will certainly define the experiences that your customers have. So how much energy and for that matter, how much money have you invested in your digital presence? It's certainly something you need to look at. You need to evaluate where you stack up online. Do efforts, again, of your team translate online to build that trust? Because you can't leave this to chance. And that statement at the bottom of this slide is, whether we want to believe it or not, is true. And 92% of people by Nielsen survey will trust a recommendation, either good or bad, from someone they don't even know. And it's happening every day. If you don't believe it, you just have to go out there and look at it. So your reputation is important, and it's probably one of the most valuable things that you have. In fact, I would say going forward, it's probably the difference in the success of your business, or can be a determinant of the difference of the success of your business. It will be in this social environment, in this distributed trust environment. It will definitely be the most valuable asset that you have within your business to continue to perpetuate it. Certainly you have loyal customers that out there. How do you develop more? How do you develop that into an even greater degree is where you have to go. And if you don't, you got to think about it. If you don't have value statements associated with your business, I would draw you back to where I started in the definition of trust. It's about reliability. Are you driving in a message of reliability? Is your business based in trust and honesty? Have you appropriately invested in technology and equipment that allows your people to do the job the right way, the first time? So whatever makes sense to you, whatever your trust message is fine, but it should be on the tip of every one of your employees' tongues, and even more importantly, it should be a part of their actions and reflected in the interactions that they have with your customers every day. So you can measure trust. Don't think that you can't. It's measured in however you measure customer retention or loyalty. It can be measured in how many cars you have of the driveway. What's your percentage of cars in the driveway? As you know, there's probably an average of at least two and probably three cars in every driveway. Are you just getting one of those cars? Are you getting two? Are you getting three? And then claiming ownership of what people are saying about you, both to your face and online. So that introduces our last poll question. Nodder will throw up here and we'll.
Yeah, so the question is, do you have a message of trust incorporated into your business? And can customers see that at all times? Very interesting here, Al. I mean, you were saying measuring trust. I guess from a measurement perspective, the only issue there is that it's after the fact. It's the result, right? Do you think there are any ways to? I mean, other than like Google reviews or something like that, is there a way to track trust as it happens? What do you think of that?
I think there is, but even more importantly, I think it's building in the processes that actually change the way people feel about it. So it's not left to chance. You can't leave it to chance. And one of the things that we talk about within ShopPros is discrete actions that allow you to develop that trust within. Whether you have a company brochure that basically is your promises to your customer that get represented with every customer that comes in and say, here are the non-negotiables that we will always do. We'll never tell you you need something that you don't need. We'll only suggest things or require things that are essential, whatever they might be, to really tell your story. So it's about introducing, again, going back to that journey and introducing actions and activity and processes around each one of those things, because you can't over communicate. It may be, and certainly AutoLeap has addressed this in spades, I think, is being able to communicate to the customer even through the repair experience, especially if the person is not there, to say, hey, just wanted you to know your vehicle's it's in the bay now, it's being serviced. We're going to meet your required delivery time or whatever. Those little updates where somebody can pick up, if they're in a meeting or whatever, pick up their phone and say, wow, these guys are going the extra mile. They're keeping me aware of what's going on. And then not being afraid to schedule additional appointments coming up. I mean, we all know, and you could probably compare going to the dentist to getting your car worked on, but you don't leave the dentist without getting a card that says, here's your next appointment. It just doesn't happen. So doing things like that are really showing that you're really in tune to what their needs are and keeping their vehicles operating safely, because it is a large investment of money. So for sure.
It makes a lot of sense. Results of the poll are 65-35. 65% say yes, 35% say no. Probably room for improvement on both sides. I don't see a lot of shops doing it to the level you're talking about here, Al. So I think a lot of improvement on all ends there.
Well, I would say, if you haven't, it's not too late to start. And this is an evergreen process; it never ends. It should be. It's part of that continuous improvement ecosystem that you have to build in your shop to be successful. What are the way? And engaging your team is how you learn. They're facing the customers every day and looking at it and really understanding that, and then engaging them to say, how can we improve on what we're already doing, if we're doing it, or if we're not doing it, how do they feel like it is? And it goes to another topic that we're talking a lot about in our ShopPros members meeting, and that is building a culture within your shop. Because your culture in your shop, whether you think you have one or you don't, you do. And if you don't have one, your culture is what you tolerate. And that's a lot about what I would again look at, if you've got that employee who may not share the values that you've exposed or you've promoted within your shop, and they are interacting with your customers every day, whether technician or advisor, and you simply in today's environment cannot allow that person, if they can't be rehabilitated and understand and embrace your values, you can't let them exist in your shop, because they're going to negatively impact your experience, your reputation, and the things that people say about it. Because word of mouth doesn't exist anymore. It's not word of mouth that you tell one person. As you all know, it becomes socially generated platform where everybody in the town that you live in think and see what other people are saying about you. So it really is critical.
Yeah.
And that is the essence of my message, really, is about that distributed trust. Understanding that people are trusting businesses and individuals much differently today than they ever did before. And if you're relying on those face-to-face interactions, you may never get that potential customer into your shop based on what other people are saying about you, or based on what their perception is of your website, or whatever your technology solutions are. You may never even get the opportunity to engage with that customer because they're not even coming. Before, they just didn't come back. Now you don't ever get a chance to see them or to try to correct that unless you're actively managing and engaging in your reputation and understanding what this distributed trust means as far as consumers go.
Yeah, well, makes a lot of sense. Obviously, topic near and dear to my heart. Review management, the whole 9 yards there makes sense. Cool.
So we're coming to the near of our time. So this last slide, in all transparency, a bit of a commercial. We know, and I understand, and I've seen it through my career. Operating a shop is a tough business. It's not easy, whether you're an independent, a franchise, or an enterprise location. It's a challenging opportunity, and these dramatic shifts in technology, both in the vehicle and in the digital technology, as well as customer expectations that we're all facing, are going to make it even more difficult. And it's shaping a new equation that you have to experience and embrace as a shop to take advantage of, and to change the way you've thought about it, to change the way that you're doing things. And it's about partnerships too. It's about establishing partnerships with people that share your values and make that journey easier as you go down through that. We all know that our business is really designed where, or has historically been where it is very difficult to work on the business. You're working in it every day, and that can become a daily trek that's very stressful, and disillusionment can easily impede that your ability to perform in that environment. So you have to look for opportunities to improve on that, to make it easier as you go and fight these battles every day. That's what ShopPros is about, really. It's about understanding where you're at and where you could be, and then really building the roadmap to get there. And it's about business planning, strategic planning, operational management, certainly, and as well as having a support network of shops. Because what I found is, and what's enamored me with ShopPros for that matter, is there's very few places where businesses, especially automotive shop owners, can go. We didn't all go to business school. Where can you go to get the barometers to let you know how you're doing, how others are doing of similar size and type? And that's what we try to do, is connect the dots across that to understand how you're doing, where you can do, the areas that you can do better, how we can help support that, come alongside you as a partner and support that. So otherwise, it's Newton's law, first law, perform to perfection. An object is in motion, stays in motion with the same speed and direction unless it's acted upon by another force. And really, ShopPros wants to be that force that creates the energy for you to go and take your business to a different place. So again, thank AutoLeap for the opportunity to get in front of you. Hopefully you've seen or you've gotten something out of it, some nugget of knowledge or information, or at least awareness that you can take back and use in your shops. We certainly understand the opportunities that you have in managing a tough business, but hopefully we can help that as we go forward. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Al, and thank you folks for tuning in. Really appreciate the time here. Al, very informative, and look forward to having you again soon.